There's a certain kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep. It comes from saying yes when your heart quietly whispers no. You know the feeling. That slow, invisible weight that grows every time you agree to something you don't want to do. The favor you didn't have the energy for. The plan you didn't want to attend. The request you couldn't refuse because somehow no felt like a betrayal. You tell yourself it's fine, that it's easier this way, that keeping the peace matters more than keeping your boundaries. But somewhere in the silence between what you feel and what you say, a small part of you begins to disappear. People who can't say no often wear kindness like armor. They've learned to measure their worth through the comfort of others. They give not because they always want to, but because they've been taught that saying no risks love, connection, or peace. And so they build a life full of quiet compromises, mistaking being needed for being valued. It often starts young. Maybe you grew up in a home where saying no wasn't safe, where disagreement led to anger, where boundaries were seen as disobedience, where good meant compliant, agreeable, accommodating. You might have learned that love was conditional, that affection came easiest when you didn't cause problems. So you learned to say yes. You learned to anticipate what others wanted before they even asked. You became good at reading moods, good at pleasing, good at disappearing. But what no one told you is that constantly saying yes is its own kind of self-abandonment. Each yes that contradicts your truth slowly teaches your mind that your comfort is secondary, your limits unimportant, your voice optional. And after years of this, the word no begins to sound harsh, almost cruel, even when it's the truth. When you can't say no, you start living in quiet contradiction. You might smile while your stomach knots. You might agree while your intuition screams. You might comfort others while silently needing comfort yourself. And you convince yourself that it's noble, that being generous, flexible, understanding makes you strong. But deep down, you know it's not strength, it's fear. Fear of rejection, fear of disappointing someone, fear of being seen as selfish or unkind, fear of being alone. Because for many people, the inability to say no isn't about weakness, it's about survival. You've learned that harmony means safety, that rejection hurts more than exhaustion, that peace is fragile, and it's your job to protect it. So you keep saying yes, again and again, even when it breaks you a little each time. Psychologists often call this people-pleasing behavior, a coping mechanism rooted in early emotional conditioning. When a child grows up in an environment where their needs are minimized or ignored, they begin to associate approval with love. They learn to please as a form of protection, to be agreeable as a way to stay safe. And that pattern doesn't just vanish with age. It follows you into friendships, relationships, and careers. You start to say yes before you've even processed what's being asked. You prioritize others before checking in with yourself. And soon, you forget what you actually want. Because when your self-worth is tied to being liked, boundaries start to feel dangerous. The word no feels like rejection, not of the other person, but of yourself. You might tell yourself that saying yes makes you generous, but deep down you know there's something fragile beneath it. It's not generosity if it costs you your peace. It's not kindness if it comes from fear. And it's not love if it requires you to disappear. People who can't say no often live in cycles of burnout. They pour and pour until they have nothing left, then wonder why they feel empty, anxious, or resentful. They carry everyone's emotions, but no one carries theirs. And even when someone offers help, they decline, because they don't know how to receive. They're comfortable giving, not taking. comfortable saying yes, not setting limits. Because receiving feels selfish. Saying no feels cold. Asking for space feels like rejection. But here's the quiet truth. You can't be everything to everyone and still be yourself. Love built on endless compliance isn't real love. It's performance. Peace that depends on your silence isn't peace. It's suppression. You might think saying no will make people leave. But the right people, the ones who truly care, won't see your boundaries as rejection. They'll see them as honesty. They'll respect your limits because they respect you. And that's what you've been craving all along. Not just love, but love that doesn't require you to shrink. The fear of saying no is deeply human. It's not about politeness. It's about protection. You protect yourself from confrontation, from guilt, from the possibility of being misunderstood. But the longer you protect yourself from discomfort, the more disconnected you become from truth. Saying no doesn't mean you're unkind. It means you've finally learned that your needs matter too. It means you've learned to hold space for yourself in a world that keeps asking for more. You deserve relationships where no doesn't need to be explained, where your silence isn't mistaken for agreement, where love isn't earned through obedience. The first time you say no, it might shake you. Your chest might tighten. Your voice might tremble. You might feel guilt creep in like a shadow. That's okay. It's just your body reacting to years of conditioning. Years of believing that peace only exists through compliance. But slowly, your nervous system learns a new truth. That boundaries don't break connection, they build it. That love doesn't demand sacrifice, it honors honesty. That no isn't rejection, it's self-respect in its purest form. You might not realize it, but the inability to say no is often shaped by the way you learned love. For some, love was peace only if you were easy. For others, love was attention only if you didn't ask for too much. And so you learned that love and compliance were connected. That affection was something you earned through obedience. It becomes a kind of unspoken rule that governs your relationships as an adult. You start feeling that to be loved, you must always agree. To be accepted, you must always be available. To be safe, you must never disappoint. And so, when someone asks for something, your time, your energy, your comfort, a silent instinct kicks in. You say yes before you've even checked with yourself. Psychologically, this is often tied to what therapists call anxious attachment, a pattern that forms when love feels unpredictable. It's when connection feels fragile and rejection feels unbearable. People with anxious attachment tend to say yes even when they mean no. Not because they don't have boundaries, but because boundaries feel like the beginning of loss. They fear that if they draw a line, love will vanish. That no will translate to, I don't care. And that's the deepest fear. Being misunderstood as unloving. But the truth is, saying no isn't a lack of love. It's a declaration of truth. One that says, I care about you, but I also care about me. It's not cold, it's clear. And clarity is love's greatest act of respect. Yet, clarity can be terrifying for someone who's used to earning affection through self-erasure. Because when you've spent your whole life adjusting yourself to others, the moment you stop, the silence feels unbearable. You start to wonder, who am I if I'm not saying yes? Who am I if I'm not needed? Who am I if I stop being the person everyone can rely on? You begin to realize how much of your identity has been built around being agreeable. It's not just a habit. It's a survival story written into your body. Your yes became a shield, And without it, you feel exposed. But what if I told you that behind every person who can't say no, there's a quiet child who once believed that love had to be earned? A child who learned that keeping everyone happy was the safest way to exist. A child who believed that if they could just stay helpful, kind, and accommodating enough, maybe no one would leave. You carry that child's lessons into adulthood, and they whisper in your ear every time you try to set a boundary. They say, if you say no, they'll think you're selfish. They say, if you don't help, they'll stop caring. They say, if you stand up for yourself, you'll lose them. And so you keep saying yes, not because you want to, but because you don't know how to unlearn the fear of being unloved. But love that depends on your silence isn't love. It's control. And peace that depends on your exhaustion isn't peace. It's performance. Real love can hold a no. Real peace allows space for difference. Real connection doesn't crumble when you assert yourself. It deepens. When you start learning to say no, the world around you might shift. Some people will resist it. They'll test your boundaries, guilt you, or pull away. But others, the ones who truly care, will stay. They'll understand that your honesty is an act of trust, not rebellion. They'll see that your no isn't rejection. It's a sign that you feel safe enough to be real. That's the paradox of boundaries. The more honest you are about what you can't give, the more authentic your relationships become. Because when you stop saying yes to everything, you start saying yes to the right things. You stop pouring your energy into what drains you and start giving from a place of fullness instead of fear. It's not easy. Saying no will trigger guilt. You'll feel that familiar ache, the tension in your chest, the voice in your head saying you're letting someone down. But that guilt isn't truth. It's just the echo of an old pattern, trying to survive in a new reality.